Greetings, comrades. More capital for you. We're going to do chapter 31 right now. It is titled Genesis of the Industrial Capitalist. This is a lot going on in this chapter, but basically we're still talking about where did capitalism come from? How did this change from feudalism to capitalism happen, specifically in Europe? And let's see, he's talking about this happened, the industrial capitalist happened at a much more gradual pace than with the farming and agricultural industry of the time. He's talking about two distinct forms of capital emerging: usurer's capital and a merchant's capital. Let's see, we're talking about the development of corporate towns, company towns starting to happen during this time. And he says that Holland is essentially kind of like the birthplace of this type of capitalism, stemming from slavery, becoming this dawn of capitalist production, using the power of the state, which is, the concentrated and organized force of society, to quicken this change from feudalism to capitalism. So using, the state, the powers of the state, the military, the police force, enforcing this change, and supporting capital, right, as it is nowadays. Here we get to talk about the East India Company. We've heard of that if you went to public school in the United States. They had a tea monopoly and also a full monopoly of trade with China at the time, basically just plundering the third world and all of the colonies. East India Company is the people who had the tea that was thrown in the Boston Harbor, Boston Tea Party. That's where that came from. So let's see. These colonies secured the market. So through monopoly, they were able to increase accumulation of capital or accumulation of money and resources. And then back home, that became capital. There was this industrial supremacy, which is a commercial supremacy, which is an industrial predominance. And this is literally like how capital is taking over with control of this change, this industrialization happening at the time. We're talking about public credit and national debts, basically as part of this colonial system. Public credit as the credo of capital, and nations becoming richer the more they're in debt, which is, again, still true nowadays. Public debt as a powerful lever of primitive accumulation. The great banks rose at this time, the Bank of England in 1694, and this idea of credit through the bank, loans to the government, and taxes on the citizens. All these things started happening around this time. They being the industrial capitalists, were stealing poor kids, literally stealing them from their parents, from their families, and putting them to work in the factories. The terms he used to describe how they were treated is they were flogged, fettered, tortured, and starved. And these kids were put to shift work. So essentially, and we're talking like children, like 8 to 12 years old, small children, working, the day shift for 12 hours and then switching out with another kid that's working the night shift for 12 hours. The cotton industry growing at the time, child slaves in the UK, and then of course we know about chattel slavery in the US at the time as well. And there's a quote I wanted to end this with on page 833. The eternal laws of nature of the capitalist mode of production, to complete the process of separation between laborers and conditions of labor, to transform at one pole the social means of production and subsistence into capital, at the opposite pole the mass of the population into wage laborers, into free laboring poor, that artificial product of modern society. If money comes into the world with a congenital blood stain on one cheek, capital comes dripping from head to foot from every pore with blood and dirt. Cheers.